All right, so time to come back together here, and we'll get ready to get on with the message. Some of you are ready to go. See me out in the hallway. Everybody have a good fellowship, good cookies, good coffee. To those of you online, it's good to have you here today, and those of you that are here as well, I'm at the end of a mild sore throat. That's over, but I'm in the frog in the throat stage where got a little bit of something there that I can't seem to get out. So if I cough every now and then, a little more than normal, apologize in advance. We'll pray that God helps me get through it. But those of you online that are hearing that, apologize as well. Been trying to get it cleared out for the day, but it's been just sort of nagging me, I don't know if anybody else gets that. Probably the mold that's activating, right? We're at that rebirth, and the rebirth of snow going away and the green's coming. Well, then, all that mold that's been trapped in your house starts, hey, wait, it's my turn too, Got to get in there and get those windowsills cleaned out. Anyways, that is the story today. I'm glad to be here, and I've got had a word that was laid on my heart over this, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I want to pray first, because that's always the best way to start before we head into the word of the Lord. So let's pray. Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity to come together before your church and read through the word and give some thoughts on how that has affected me and how it may affect the people that are here. I just ask that you would guide me and just lead me in ways where I wouldn't speak anything untrue about your holy word of God. And anything that comes out of my mouth that isn't meant to be heard, just let that just fall to the wayside. And please encourage people with this. Let us hear your word. Let us better know you from the word of the Lord, so we might have a better relationship with you. I thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so I knew about this for a while, and most of you have heard me preach before, maybe everybody, maybe not everybody. Most of you know. Who knows when I usually prepare my sermons? Anybody have an answer for that? or the morning before, right? So I've been known to be a moderate procrastinator for my entire life, quite honestly. I don't know if that's a man thing, if it's just a me thing. I'm sure there's many people that like you. Who else procrastinates? Throw it up there. So I am a definite procrastinator. If you're married, turn to your wife or husband right now and apologize to them for that. Let them know that you love them no matter what. And so it's something that I struggle with, but it's also a strength in some ways because I tend to be able to get things done under pressure. And so it helps me in my job. It's probably why I work in my job and why it fits me so well, because I don't get a chance to pre-plan when I go to an emergency. I just have to make it happen, right? And so in this situation when I do preaching, I generally do the same thing, and I just sort of whip it together. God puts something in my heart, and I pull it together. This week is different. This week's different. So for the first time in years, I actually was pretty much done with this 2 weeks ago. Who's impressed? Okay. I don't know what that means, but I believe it means God has something to say, right? Let's go with that. Let's go with God has something to say. He said something to me, and I have something to share. We're going to go through it. We're going to see how it plays out, because I tried to go through it again later. I was like, I whipped this thing out, and I wrote this outline. I'm going to talk about that story. And I tried to go through it again and say, what do I need to change? What do I need to add? And I had nothing. So you're getting pretty much what was put on my heart a couple weeks ago. And initially, when John asked me and said, hey, I'd like you to talk about this topic, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I said to him, or I was thinking in my head, it's like, I can preach. I can teach, I can preach. Whatever the topic is, I'll get it done, right? I was not excited about this topic. not excited about this topic at all. It's not something that really spoke to me at the time or in general. There's a reason for that, I believe, and I'm going to share more about that later on. But on April 7th at work, that changed, okay? And I became very excited about this topic. So God's working through that. Because John, he had no idea what, he was just saying, well, this week would be a good week for Wayne, this week would be a good week for you. And part of it was my schedule, because I just got off Sundays. So this is my first week off in 3 weeks. So this was really the only day. And so, this is what I wanted to preach that day. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So thankfully, I don't still have that attitude. So we're going to go through it and see where it goes from there. So the title of what I've got today is Talking with Jesus. So just in case you don't know, and whether he said it before, he wanted me to talk about real conversations with God. Like, how do we really talk to God? And of course, I got stop, drop, and roll up there, but stop, drop, and listen. Okay? So nobody has to stop, drop right now in here, but that's supposed to be a reference to dropping to your knees, not dropping to put yourself out if you're on fire. But hopefully, by the time we're done here, you'll be on fire for Jesus, right? Which is a good way to be on fire. You don't have to roll then, except for, rock and roll your way to heaven. So that was the gist of what John and I's discussion was. I was really struggling with it, like I said. Just wasn't in my wheelhouse. Not something that I just felt really a strong conviction about, or something that I really wanted to preach on. I was struggling with coming up with a plan. On the 7th of April, I was at work, and this was the first day of the prayer series. So John had preached. Casey was downstairs because it was Family Sunday. And I'm at work, and I'm working out. I'm over at Station 3. And I don't know if any of you have been there, but we have sort of a workout room that's in the bay, and it's elevated, and we got windows where you can see out to the trucks and outside. It's actually a pretty peaceful area over there. And I'm up there by myself, and for lately I've been listening to worship music a lot when I'm working out. I just sort of pump something in and just go for it, and it's not like the normal, listen to rap or rock and roll, 80s rock, I'm not sitting there listening to Scorpions, you know what I'm talking about. But I've been listening to worship music a lot, and it's been really good. And so I'm sitting up there, and Casey calls me in the middle. I'm halfway through, I'm middle of my bench reps, I'm moving on to something else, I'm wanting to get done because I like to get done and get out. And she calls me about church, and she's like, man, today was really awesome. And she's talking to me about the quiet place, getting away for a quiet place, and just things like that. She just had a lot of things that she was wanting to talk about about the service and how well it went. And honestly, we don't talk about it very often, and partially because she's not down here very often. But when she does, it's not usually we're here together or something, and it's just not something she usually does where she calls me up and talks to me about what's going on at the service. And so it was sort of an interesting day from that standpoint. I'm up there worshiping, and things are going pretty well as far as just worshiping and working out and just having that moment with God, But just the way she talked about it, I just had this sense of I need to shut up real quick and just take a moment and listen to God, right? So, because I'm up there worshiping, singing, I'm praying, I'm lifting, my mind's sort of on that, and so I'm on all different kinds of things, and so I had all this stuff going on, but I wasn't really thinking about, what's God have to say to me right now? And so, I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to finish the story in a minute. I know the anticipation's killing you, but it's coming later. So I want to go to sort of my journey, because I want to talk about some of the things that led up to this moment. Casey and I decided that we wanted to read the Bible together in a year. We haven't done that since we've been married. Honestly, I think I've said it before, I haven't really done it front to back myself ever. I've done a lot of reading in the Bible. I went to Bible college. I've done extensive study of the Bible, but reading it front to back in a year like I've never done that. And we decided to start doing it. It's been really good, and it's been very challenging because the Old Testament and the Pentateuch in particular can be incredibly challenging. And so, but it's been really good. And so a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about and some of the things I'm going to talk about comes from that. So God's been working on my life through that. Then Sam and Chloe had mentioned they went to Weekend to Remember last year, and then Sam called me from up there. It's like, it was awesome, you need to go, blah, blah. And so we bought a gift card, and we ended up going to this marriage retreat, Weekend to Remember. That as well was really awesome. Casey and I made a commitment to pray together every day, which we didn't do. And there was reasons for that. I think I mentioned that before about divorce rate in couples that pray together daily is like couples that stay together. Let's talk about the positive. 99% of the time they stay together if they pray together daily. And so we're like, well, let's do that because that sounds like a great plan. Not that we had any issues. We're happily married, but this is like putting the gas pedal on our relationship with God and our marriage. This is like we're cruising down the street, and now it's like we're going into overdrive, right? And so some of you, this is something that is a normal part of your life. I'm sure it's a normal part of your life. And I'm sure it's for many of you. For us, it wasn't. Great marriage, we're focused on our relationship with God, but this Weekend to Remember really sort of pushed us up and had us make a commitment together to do that, and it's been awesome. And so God's sort of been priming me, I felt like. And so what happened in that moment, actually, we're going to pause on that still. So I'm going to finish the story up later. So we're going to move on to this Bible recap thing and the journey I had. Because I'll say this. For the first time in a long time, when I was sitting up there in the workout room and I just quieted myself and I said, God, what do you have for me? He had something for me. And it was pretty powerful. And I'm going to talk about it. It's powerful for me. The message I have isn't necessarily about what happened to me. I'm going to tell the story about that. But the message that I have is that he has this for all of us. And it comes in different ways. You may not have the same experience I had in that moment. It may be different. And I want to talk about some of these other people in the Bible, the, quote, heroes of the Bible that I've been reading about a lot lately as I'm going through the Old Testament. And I put it in quotes because some of the people that we recognize as heroes are interesting people, to say the least. So, and they had some moral challenges. Let's put it that way, to put it nicely. And so I want to walk through this, and I'm going to talk about each one and why I feel like they're sort of an important part of this story, because I think there's things that stop us from having real conversations with God. And a real conversation is not one in which we just talk one way, right? So if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm doing all the talking, that's not a conversation. I'm telling you stuff. That's it. But a conversation is a back and forth. And that's the thing that I struggled with, that when John talked to me about this, I'm like, I don't do that. I haven't been doing that. I really haven't. I do a great job talking to God and telling him what I want, telling him what I think needs to happen, asking him to forgive me. But listening to him and believing he's going to talk back to me, not something I really do a whole lot of. And haven't for years, really. And so I want to talk about this because there's these heroes of the Bible, there's different experiences that they had. And the first one I want to talk about is Abraham. I'm going to read, primarily I'm going to be reading out of the, just so you know when you're following along, the English Standard Version today. But I want to talk a little bit about the story when God came, and God came in three people physically to Abraham. In chapter 18 in the book of Genesis, the three men came. Abraham recognized them as God. He clearly recognized them as God. And so he's having a conversation with him. He's having a back and forth. And so I want to go to verse 10. And it specifically says the Lord. And the way that they write the names in the Hebrew, it tells you this isn't just some person or some, earthly Lord. This is God Lord that's speaking right here. And so the Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in their years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, after I'm worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh. So here she is. She's having a conversation with God, physical conversation. What does God say back? And she was afraid, right? She's afraid because he caught her doing this. And what does she do? The immediate thing like a child does, Did you do this? I didn't do that. Exactly what happened. And God said, no, but you did laugh. And so this sort of gave me this picture of like our relationship with God, because there's a lot of different things analogies that are used in the Bible. One of them is a marriage, right? Like marriage is used as analogies, our relationship with Christ on a regular basis. The other one with God is a father-son relationship, right? And so, or a relationship between a parent and a child. And so often when you look at these stories, they're just like children. They're just like our children. God confronts them and we're like, I didn't do it, but then he just keeps coming back. And so one of the reasons why I feel like these stories are important is because I think, and I've done this myself, like I felt like God doesn't want to deal with me. I make so many mistakes. And here's Sarah like having this moment where she's like laughs at God. They're recognizing that this is God. And then she laughs about what he says. Imagine that. The creator of the universe says, this is going to happen. And you chuckle in their presence and think it's funny and it's not going to happen. And he confronts you about it and you're like, I didn't laugh. Probably our immediate response, right? And you're like, I'm such an idiot. I just said that. He knows I laughed, right? He literally knows I just laughed. But I said it anyways because I'm an idiot. And then he's like, no, you laughed. And then you're sitting there going, oh. But God doesn't just like say, okay, I'm done with you. You're a stupid child. I'm going to leave you up there and I'm going to go somewhere else. No, he's still there. He still manifested his promise to them. Like, these are such great moments, these little stories that are thrown that shows God's nature. It's not so much about them. We know that these people, even though they're talked about heroes of the Bible, like, the father of Israel, the father and mother of Israel, we look at them as great people. Anybody that's read through them knows that Abraham and Sarah made a lot of stupid mistakes, right? But God kept going back to them, running after them, using them. Kept having real conversations and confronting them about it over and over again, okay? So I want to move forward to, this is sort of a different take on this, but it's right here in Genesis 18:22 through 33. And this is when we're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham's like talking to God at this point, and God's like going to wipe the place out, right? So here he is. This is real conversations with God. And he sits there and he's like, where am I at? I want to be in 22 through 33. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. Then Abraham drew near and said, will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked, Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put righteous to death with the wicked. So the righteous fare as the wicked? Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? And the Lord said, if I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. So here it is. Our sense of fairness, right? So we have our sense of fairness. Sodom has become this place they've done a lot of bad things, some really horrible things that took place there. God's seeing it as a place that's not, it needs to be gone. And Abraham's like, his Lot's living there, his nephew, he doesn't want everybody to die. He's like, he probably has some relationships with people there. And he's like, well, there's just 50, right? So who knows the rest of the story? What does he do next? God says, I'm going to spare him if there's 50 people. So then what does Abraham do next? 45. What if there's 40? That's not it. Then what if there's 20? What if there's, I don't remember the exact numbers, but he keeps going down, and he keeps pleading, down to like 10, and it's like, again, just like a child coming before a parent and like, well, can I have a cookie if I just do this, I mean, that's sort of what it is. Like, and these are these real conversations. And God is like still having that time with him, like taking the time to go through it. At one point, he gets a little upset, just like a parent would. And Abraham gets scared, just like a child would at the very end of this. And but God still like fulfills this. And he still like does this. But like, I want to read that one part. For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. And then he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry. I will speak again, but this once. Suppose 10 are found there. So he knows he's like getting annoying at this point. It's the kid that just keeps grabbing your pant leg and jerking on your pant leg. And like saying, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? But God still is working with him. I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool moment. And I think it says a lot about God. All right. So next person we're going to go to is Moses. And I think most of you know this story. So we're going to the burning bush, and we're in Exodus 4, 1 through 7. So the burning bush was there. He's like hearing God speak to him. And he's having a real conversation with God. Okay? And so I'm going to read verses in chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Then Moses answered, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. So God's like appeared to him and said, you're going to go do this. You're going to go before Pharaoh. You're going to save the people. Moses is seeing a burning bush that's not burning, and he's hearing God's voice speak to him. He knows this is holy ground. And what is he doing? He starts arguing with God. He starts arguing with God. The Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a staff. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses ran from it. But the Lord said to Moses, put out your hand and catch it by the tail. So he put out his hand and caught it, and it became a staff in his hand. And that they may believe in the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. And again the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. And he put his hand inside his cloak. When he took it out, his hand was leprous like snow. And God said, put your hand back inside your cloak. So when he put his hand inside, and when he took it out, behold, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. If they will not believe you, God said, or listen to the first sign, they may believe the latter. If they will not believe even those two signs, you shall take some water. And he starts going through these different things. Well, then Moses is like, we're going to skip to verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, oh, my Lord. So he already did like 3 different miracles he said he was going to do, right? Showed it to him right then and there. Moses is still like, but I can't speak real good. So he goes here in verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow to speech and of tongue. And the Lord said to him, who has made the man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. He just turned a stick into a snake in front of him, made his hand look leprous and healed it, and he's telling him, I'm God, the creator of the universe. I can make you speak good. And Moses is like, yeah, but I can't speak good. What's wrong with this guy? Seriously. What is wrong with him? Could you imagine doing that? Like God's speaking to you. There's a burning bush here. God just turned your staff, into a stick, right? Made your hand leprous, healed it in front of you. You're watching this all happen. You're having a verbal conversation with the burning bush that's not burning. And then you're like, well, I can't speak good. And God says, I'm the creator of the world, and I will make you speak good. And you still don't believe it. Like, are we like that sometimes? How much are we like that? Like, just crazy. And these are the heroes of the Bible. These are examples. Good thing, right? Because I'm guilty, as I'll talk about later. So he's like, fine. God got angry, just like, we do with our kids when our kids won't listen to us. And he gets angry, and he said, fine, get your brother Aaron. And he gets Aaron. What happens with the rest of the story? I'm not going to go through all of it, right? How often was Aaron used when he was speaking to Pharaoh? Does anybody know? Very much? Hardly at all, right? Moses was the one that was speaking most of the time. We don't have a lot of recollection of that. Aaron was there, but it wasn't like he was like Moses the one who's doing a lot of speaking. God was just patient with him. And then he gets to the point where he's not, but he still loves him so much. He still uses him. Even when he just right in front of him, telling him, All right, so the next person, here's the doozy, Samson. So, what do we know about Samson? Give me a nice little thing about Samson. Huh? That's a good one. Huh? Beautiful hair. Yep. He's strong, right? Anything else? All right. Disobedient. Good. I don't know about that. I'm going to say he's prideful, stupid, and lustful. Okay? So we know that he's got a problem with women. Yep. You had another one? He doesn't have, do you have another one? What do you got? You think he's kind? There we go. All right. So we may have. I'm not going to go into that part of the story, but I'm going to talk about. Do we all know that Samson had a little bit of a struggle with the ladies? That he tended to choose poorly when it came to that. But let's go to Judges 15 and 16. And so, first of all, he's called. This is the time of the judges. So these judges were brought forth. And I don't know how much you guys have read in Judges, but the judges were leaders of Israel at the time. God wanted to have Israel follow him. And the judges were supposed to be that conduit. They didn't want to have king. He didn't want kings in place. We know what happens later when kings start becoming rulers in Israel. But judges, in a lot of ways, there was a lot of problems there. Why is that? What's the big problem with the judges? Does anybody know? They're human, right? Also known as stupid. And they do stupid human tricks on a regular basis, right? So Samson, we think of him, he's like, oh, super strong, powerful. He killed all these Philistines, went and took the time to catch, how many foxes was it? 300? He went and caught 300 foxes and tied them together by their tails and put a torch on them. Why would you do that? Like this, in some ways you're like, is this guy insane? Why would you catch, where are 300 foxes in one location? How much ground did he have to cover to actually catch all those foxes? Think about that. That's insane. So he does that. Then he marries a Philistine. Is he supposed to do that? That's a no-no. But he's like, I like her. She's cute. Mom and Dad, get her for me. And then he does that. That doesn't work out well. That sort of brought on the whole fox story. So then he goes to, later on, hooks up with this Delilah. And I'm paraphrasing this story because we need to read through the whole thing. But read through it. It's unbelievable. And I know you've read it. These are my pictures of all this. So a lot of these are sort of like these stories, reading the children's Bible when I was going to school in this church. Back in the day when the baptismal used to be here and we used to hide under it from Robert Tupper. and then go in the back and Hilmer would spank me with a paddle with holes drilled in it. So, but yeah, right here, reading through the Bible, learning these Bible stories, and you think, these people are really cool, they do all these great things. And then I'm reading this as an adult or later on, I'm like, this guy has real stability issues. Like, how did he become in charge of anything? Why is he a judge? Like, he did really bad things and chose women very poorly. And so Delilah, they're trying to figure out his strength. 3 times she keeps going back to him like, what's your weakness? Like, it didn't clue in the first time when she said, tie me up, and she ties him up. Like, maybe she's trying to trick me. That didn't clue him in. I mean, I guess maybe it did. But he kept doing it. I don't know what's worse, that he's so dumb he couldn't figure out that she was trying to capture him and turn him over to his enemies, or that he didn't know or he did know. What makes him dumber? I don't know. They're both really bad. So here he is. This guy's making poor choices. He's a judge. He's God has used them to help deliver Israel at times and save them in some battles. But I want to go to the end of the story because we actually were doing the Bible recap. And when we were doing this, at the end of this Delilah story, after he was captured, so Solomon gets captured because, we all know the thing, he gets his hair cut, he loses his strength because he was a Nazirite, and he gets captured, his eyes get put out. It's a horrible story, as this thing happens at the end. And he's standing there tied up, and this is the thing that we all remember, and I have to find this part in here. All right. So this is the thing about Samson. When he does talk about God, he doesn't really talk to him in that personal way. And so this specific part in the scripture, and I'm reading right now in verse 28 of verse 16. So Samson's standing there in the pillar, or in the room. He gets the young man to put him on the pillars. That's the thing who remembers that image from the children's Bible of him standing with his arms on the pillars, right? I think we've all that grew up in the church know that image, right? So, but here he is, and he's made all these horrible mistakes. He's been prideful. He's broken a lot of rules, and he's right here in this time. His strength is gone, and he said, Samson called to the Lord, and this was actually when he's calling in a personal sense to God. O Lord, please remember me and please strengthen me only this once, O God, that I may be avenged on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson grasps the pillars, and we all know this part, pushes them apart, and everybody dies. So God gives him strength. He speaks to God. He's a horrible failure. He's made horrible mistakes. And even in that moment, God comes to him when he speaks to him and answers his prayer. And so when you feel like that moment of like, God's not going to answer my prayer. I've made so many mistakes. Just know God will be there in your time of need if you call on him personally and you have that personal call to him. All right. Samuel. So Samuel, I think we all know this story too, or some of you may. I shouldn't assume that. So we're going to go to 1 Samuel chapter 3. And this is when the Lord calls Samuel. And this is the thing that was like, sort of goes into my story that I'm going to go through in a minute. As we learn to listen. So in 1 Samuel 3, Samuel's laying there sleeping. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And he hears Samuel. And he thinks it's Eli. He thinks it's the priest that that's taking care of him. And he goes to him and says, "What, Lord? What do you need? What do you need?" And he's like, "I didn't call you." He goes back to bed. Here's Samuel again. Goes back to Eli. Eli's like, "I didn't call you." Finally, Eli's like, "Hey, God might be speaking to you. This might be God. You need to stop and say, 'Hey, what do you got for me?'" Right? And so he goes back and he hears Samuel. And he says, "Lord, I'm here. What do you got?" And he speaks to him. And I do want to read this part because, all right. Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant hears." And the Lord said to Samuel, "Behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel at which the two ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. On that day I will fulfill against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end." Eli was the priest that took care of Samuel. His sons were not good guys, and Eli was not doing anything about it, and they were in the temple, doing things they shouldn't have been doing, so God was pretty upset about it. And he said, in verse 13, "And I declare to him that I'm about to punish his house forever for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever." And Samuel lay there, and he did not like this. So this is that moment. I think a lot of us, and I'll say this for myself, this is one of the things that stopped me from having these real conversations. Who is afraid that if they stop and listen, that God's going to tell them they don't want to hear? Something they don't want to hear. I got my hand up, first and foremost. Number one, hand up, right? We like to do things, what way? Our way. Because we're Americans, dang it. I live in America, and I'm free, and I do it my way. Just like Burger King. I get it my way. I want it my way. Is that the best way? God's way is the best way. And so often, I believe, we don't listen because Samuel didn't want to hear this. He didn't want to hear that the man that took care of him, that he actually respected and looked up to, was about to have his family wiped off the planet. He didn't want to go tell Eli. He did, but he didn't want to. And I think often we don't stop and listen because we don't want to hear what God has to say to us. Whatever that is. Could be any number of things. Only you know that. Only I know what it is for me. But we're scared of what God may say because it may be something that's scary, or it may be something that we don't want to do, or that's something we don't want to give up. Whatever that is. But then God still keeps coming back. Still keeps coming back. We just have to stop and listen. Okay, so this is that learning to listen. So just take that moment. And to me, it was as simple as this Samuel moment. When I finally was I didn't have Eli telling me, wouldn't go back in time and have Eli the priest tell me, "Hey, stop and listen to God." My wife called me, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I just need to listen. And I did. And I got hit with something. So, anyways, we're going to the next one, and this very similar story. So, New Testament finally. So Saul Paul, because he was turning into Paul at this point, and Ananias, in Acts 9:10 through 18. This is going to be the last scripture that I have for today. Acts 9, 10 through 18. Not totally the last one, but really, really close. So this is right after Saul was like going to like persecute Christians, got the authority to go do it. He's on the road to Damascus. Jesus comes to him, like he sees Jesus, he's struck blind, and he's in the city, and God comes to Ananias. So let's go into this story. Now there was a disciple at Damascus named Ananias, and the Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias, and he said, Here I am, Lord. And the Lord said to him, Rise and go to the street called Straight, and at the house of Judas look for a man of Tarsus named Saul, for behold, he is praying. And he has seen a vision of a man named Ananias come in and lay his hands on him so that he might regain his sight. But Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard from many about this man, how much evil he has done to your saints in Jerusalem. And here he has the authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and the kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name. So Ananias departed and entered the house, laying his hands on him, and said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus who appeared to you on the road by which you came has sent me so that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And immediately something like scales fell from his eyes. He regained his sight, and then he rose and was baptized. And taking food, he was strengthened. Ananias did not want to go to this guy. Saul was bad news for Christians. But he was faithful. He stepped out anyways, and God used him in that moment. And we have to be that way. And so we're going to circle back to my story, wrapping up, getting close to the end here. So, I found my quiet place that day up there in the workout room, and I just listened. I said, God, what do you got for me? And for the first time in a long time, because honestly, I didn't want to hear. I didn't think I wanted to hear what he had to say, and so I didn't stop and listen very often. And so he spoke to me, and this is pretty random. So I'll tell the whole story so maybe it makes sense, okay? So Casey and I just looked at a bunch of furniture. Went to Sadler's, went to, all these sales are going on. So went to Sadler's, went to Bailey's, sort of wanted a couch for our other room, and I wanted a new bed, and we sort of expanded that into a bedroom set. I definitely sat in a couple of massage chairs and fascinated about buying a $10,000 massage chair. And so, we're looking at all this stuff, and I had this plan. I had quotes, and I'm like, okay, we could do this and this, and, all these things I want to do. So this happened like the day or two before. And so I'm at work, and I say, God, what do you have for me? And he said, and it wasn't audible, but it was very distinct in my head, like in a way that, you know how you talk to yourself in that voice? You sort of know what you sound like when you're having an internal dialogue. This was not that, okay? This was not only was not that, it was not something I normally do, because when I want something, or when my wife wants something especially, even though she wouldn't say that she wants me to do it, my tendency is I want it my way, right? And so I just go do it, because that's what I want to do. And so God said, don't buy that furniture. And I'm just sitting there like, I made this face right then. What? That's it? I'm sitting here worshiping, having this moment, and the thing you have for me is don't buy furniture? Has anybody had that happen before? And I'm like, this isn't real. I am talking to myself. Something weird's going on here. I'm not, and it was again, don't buy that furniture. And so at this point, I'm sort of freaking out a little bit. Which again, is not normal for me. I tend to be fairly calm about things, but I'm sitting there going, this is weird. Why are we talking about furniture? I'm wanting to get spiritual right now, right? And I'm wanting to come into my quiet place before you and really get down on my knees and hear what you've got for me for ministry, for like my family, like things that matter. And he wants to talk about furniture. And I'm like, what is going on? And it was consistent. He kept saying it, like, don't buy it. And I'm like, God, we really need a new bed. I said, I just like thinking, my bed's not comfortable. God, we really need a new bed. And he said, fine, get the bed. And then I was really freaked out. Like, truly freaked out. I was, and this is why I know it was real, because I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, what's going on? But then all these stories started coming up in my head. Like, he started like bringing these recollections of people like Abraham. What if there's just 10 people? And he's like, fine, I won't do it for 10 people. And then it was like that like picture came to my head of that moment, because he's like, don't buy the furniture. I'm like, great, I can't buy the furniture. I opened myself to God again. He told me something I can't do that I really want to do. This is what happens every time, right? But then I said, I really want the bed. And he's like, you can get the bed. And I'm like, literally was like, and I'm having, again, I know this seems weird because it's not about the furniture. It really isn't. Okay, I want to get to that. It's not about the furniture. What's it about? Who knows what this is about at this moment? I'll give you guys a chance to answer. What's it about?
You're debating with God.
It is, I am debating with God, but why is the furniture an issue? It's obedience. It was me putting my finances before Him and not just doing it my way at Burger King because I want extra pickles. Okay? Like, it was obedience to God and putting that first. Okay? And when I did that and I said, okay, fine, God, I won't get it. I won't buy that full bedroom set and the couch and the massage chair, but I really want the massage chair. But I'm not going to buy it. But I was like, we really need a bed. And he's like, fine, you can get the bed. And the way he said it was like, it was shocking to me. Like, this is not how God should be talking to me. Like, I shouldn't be able to ask Him this and then say, but I want this. But what do we know about? I want to skip to that next slide. Go to the next one. That. Okay? We are created in whose image? So, is our nature have similarities to God as well as our physical being? I mean, we are made in His image, right? And constantly through the Bible, it talks about these relationships between the father and son, the parent and child. And when He talks about taking care of us, like, how much more will I? If I take care of these birds and these flowers, how much more will I? Right? And so we have these moments and we're thinking it's all sacrifice. Is it all sacrifice? It's not all about sacrifice, but it's about that obedience and putting yourself and understanding what this whole journey is about on earth. Do bad things happen on this planet? All the time. Does God let them happen? Read Job. Read the book of Job. I think we all have had stories in our own lives where bad things happen, right? But we have to remember the thing that God cares about the most, what this is all about, it's all about, is our eternal souls, our relationship with Him, and His plan, which is our eternal souls and our relationship with Him, right? So sometimes bad things happen, but it's all geared towards our eternal souls and saving us and having relationship with us. It's constant thread throughout the story. So here I am in this moment, like having this, like it's freaking me out. It really is, because I haven't had this in a long time, really long time actually. This where I knew God's speaking to me right now and I'm in His presence and this is weird. Okay? So I'm going to make sure I don't lose where I'm at. So this led me into so the furniture thing happened. I had it. It's that obedience thing, right? So then I'm like, okay, you're here. Let's get into it, right? But really, what happened to me was I was just so awestruck, and then I felt like the biggest dummy. I was just like, why don't I do this more often? Why don't I do this more often? Like I'm scared to come to him, right? And there needs to be fear. There has to be a healthy fear of God. He is the creator of the universe, right? But like I was like sitting there just like, oh my goodness, I'm so dumb. And then I was like on the exercise ball in the corner because there's windows that are facing. I had somebody working with me. Thankfully, they weren't in the room with me because they would have found me weeping in the corner in the weight room. And so I'm sitting there just crying, begging for forgiveness. And God just like, it's okay. And so then I lean into my family and I'm just praying for my kids. And I'm like, God, I want them to have that relationship with you. And I'm so scared for them. I'm so like, as parents are. Who's parents in the room with kids? How many of you are scared for your kids? All the time. Excuse me. That's my first failure on the cough. God's been with me today. So you're constantly worried that that the most important thing, that relationship with God, is not going to happen. And I'm sitting there just weeping about it. And God's like, don't worry. And this is the thing I remember the most, and that's also freaked me out. And then I was just a puddle. He's like, I got you. I got your back. And I was just like crumped at that point. I'm literally face on the floor, weeping, as he's like, I just had this picture of him like with his hand on my back, just patting my back, saying, it's okay. I got you. And I'm tearing up because I'm remembering the moment now. So, and then it came. So this is the next picture. I'm going to talk specifically. All my kids have done this, but there's a very specific picture of Sam. And you guys all know Sam because he gets up here on a regular basis. So when you think Sam and I talk to each other, do you think there's a lot of me talking to Sam and telling Sam what to do? And Sam just like accepting it and doing everything I say? Who thinks that's the case? Raise your hand right now. So, yeah. The in-laws know already. They already know. So, no. Like, there's a back and forth regularly. Right, Chloe? And so, then it was like, he literally put that picture into my head and said, this is what it's like. This is my relationship with you. I don't expect you to sit there and just, placate yourself to everything. Yes, we have to be part of God's will, but we get to have real conversations with Him. We get to go back and forth with Him. Sometimes you yell at Him. I don't know what it is. You'll figure that out. If you overstep your bounds, God will let you know. Okay? But that's what it is. God's put these, and He put that picture in my head. It's just like this. It's no different. How much do I love my kids, even when they come back at me and argue with me about things? Still love them to death. Sometimes they drive me crazy when they do that. But I still love them to death. How much more does God the Father love us? How much more we're made in His image? It's the same way. The way that we, like humans, procreate, give birth, have children, raise them up. It's the same picture of our relationship with God. And this is the biggest thing I wanted to bring together today, because this is the thing that really floored me in that moment. Because it's not about the Baileys or Sadler's furniture and which couch I should get. It really wasn't. It was about putting myself in position before God, in obedience, recognizing Him, and being, okay, what do you got for me? And then taking that next step. And He took that next step. And then we're sitting there having a conversation, and I'm still at the end just crying, saying, I am so sorry. I am so sorry that I've cut you out, that I just talk to you and I don't listen. So that's the biggest thing I want to bring out today of this. Our relationship with Him is just like husband-wife, father-son, father-daughter, mother-daughter. We communicate back and forth, real conversations. So when you have that picture in your head, when you're sitting there and you're getting ready to have that quiet time, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And if I wanted to say this, because some people have like their earthly relationship with their mother or father isn't healthy. And I understand that. I understand some people have unhealthy relationships. I think we all sort of internally recognize what's a healthy looking relationship and what's not. So if you have that, if that's part of your normal life, that's not God. God isn't the abusive parent, okay? God is the loving parent. He's going to say things you don't want to hear sometimes, but He is the loving parent. So I know for some people, I don't want that to be a block. Don't let that be a block between your relationship and having real conversations with God. Any kind of broken relationship you have with your earthly parent, because we're not perfect. None of us are. None of us parents are perfect. So any kids that are here in the room, we're not perfect, but we do love you. Okay? So, but God is perfect, and He loves us enough that He gave His only Son to die for us. Remember that when you open up yourself. When you sit there and you stop talking and you start listening. And then when you get past that freaked out moment where you're actually saying, God's speaking to me, and you start talking back, I want you to have that picture of that healthy relationship between a husband and a wife and a father and a son. Because that's the way He created us. That's the way He is. He is that person. All right. Wrapping up here. Is this hitting anybody today, or is this just me? Am I speaking to myself, or am I speaking to anybody else today? I hope I got a little bit of you in here. I hope God's using this. So let me sum up. You know I love The Princess Bride, so we're not going to tell the whole story. We're just going to sum up. So the first part of this is be afraid. Be afraid. Why should we be afraid? Because we're talking to the creator of the universe. He snapped this into place with His will. So there needs to be a level of fear when we come before God, for sure, right? But on the other side, don't be afraid, because He's our Father, and we are allowed to come before Him. We are allowed to come before Him. He wants us to. He desires that more than anything. So don't be afraid. And don't worry. He's got your back. So when you're sitting there and you're like just worried about your kids or worried about your finances or whatever it may be, God's got your back. That moment when I was sitting there on that big rubber exercise ball just weeping, and He's like patting my back and He tells me, I got your back. He's got your back. So don't worry. God is good. Can I get an amen on that? All right, so I'm going to end. This is the other thing that happened. I do want to say this in the story. So I got to get my phone out. Apologize for that. But so I'm sitting there, I'm worshiping, right? So I get done. I have this moment. I'm like, all right, I still got to finish my reps. I got to finish up my workout, right? So I had that moment with God, but I'm going to get my physical exercise in after I got my spiritual exercise in. So, and I get ready to, I play a song. And this is the first song that's on. And I hit play and I just start, I don't remember what I was doing, benching or curls, whatever. So that's unimportant. But this is the song that's playing. And I don't quite realize what's going on in the background yet, but then it starts hitting me. So, and I screenshot this, like pulled the lyrics up and screenshot it and sent it to Casey. I'm like, this is freaking me out. Like, this is what happened. So there is a sound that changes things. The sound of His people on their knees. Oh, wake up, you slumbering. It's time to worship Him. That's part of it, but that's not ultimately the one I want. This is the part I want. This is the part that I heard. There is the sound I love to hear. It's the sound of the Savior's robe as He walks into the room where people pray, where we hear praises, He hears faith. That's the song that's playing as I just get done with this moment. Like I'm on my knees, and then I just had this picture of Jesus in His robe along the floor. So that happens. Then I open the Bible app real quick, and that's the verse that was in the bulletin, Ephesians 6:18, praying at all times in the Spirit with all the prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints. Like, those are the two things that immediately are on my phone as I get done having this moment. Like with the song I'm playing, which I was like getting ready, and I was just playing it in the background. I'm like, oh my goodness. God's just like, he's like, I already had this moment. And then he's like, well, here's this, and then here's this. He is there for us. We see him in the spring as the snow melts and the death goes away and the life comes back. He is there to give that life to us. And he's there for you. So I believe that and had that moment. So Jeremiah 33:3, call to me and I will answer you. I will tell you great and mighty things which you do not know. Worship team can get ready to come on up. Yeah, it was a pretty powerful moment, and I know the furniture thing's sort of silly. Huh? Not yet. I'm still struggling with it. Right? It's freaking me out. It really is. It's freaking me out. I would have bought this stuff 2 weeks ago. But, I mean, that's telling you something right there. Like, he came to me, and it seems like a silly thing, but it's not. And Lila, you hit it on the head. It was about the obedience. It was, it's just like, put this in front of me. Or I'm first in these decisions. I'm first in these. You had it, and I don't. I just do my thing. And so, I don't know, God's working. And God works in like small ways and big ways, and it's about that sacrifice that we allow. It's about the part that we give up to him. And we allow him to do. So I sort of forget how he does this normally. Do we have like a little prayer now and then song, or song first and then prayer?
Song first.
You got it, John? Song first, and then I pray, and then I'm going to let you go, right?
Yeah.
You're not up yet. You sit down. All right, let's sing a song. I'll be right back. Good. When
Keno
did
picked that song.
when did you pick that song? When did you pick that?
Like over a week ago? I don't know. Keno asked me to do it like a week and a half ago. Like 2 weeks
What?
ago.
That's freaking me out. God is good, man. What the heck? So I can confirm that she had no idea what my sermon had in it because Jonathan was still texting me on Thursday saying, "Where are your notes?" Because while the outline was done, I hadn't sent him the PowerPoint on Wednesday like I was supposed to, but somebody else picked it a week before.
I picked it Wednesday night. I wanted it for Power Hour.
Or 2.
Oh my goodness. God is good. All right. God is real. God is good. God is your good Father. Stop, drop, and listen. Okay? So with that, you're gonna play another little bit here. Anybody that wants to come forward with prayer for anything, you want to have this moment, and you want us to pray with you on having to help you listen to God. Feel free to come on up and get prayer. We're going to have some people up front to pray with you. If you need healing, you need individual prayer, please do that. If this is all new to you and you're like, I think most people here, but I don't want to assume, if you don't know Jesus, now is your time. Now is your time. So if you don't, come up and talk to us and we'll pray with you. And you will experience His presence in your life right now, life-changing. He too will play songs and have people pick songs that directly correspond with your message when they have no idea what's going on. All right? So we're going to have another song, but John's going to give us the little announcement here. Make sure I'm on. You ready, my man?
Yeah, I am.
You are on. Ooh, I almost turned it off. There you go.